Welcome back to the 21 Convention 2020 of Orlando, Florida, being held for the first time ever at 21 Summit, for being held for its first time ever here in Orlando, Florida. Our next speaker is the founder of Bulldog Mindset. He's a millionaire software entrepreneur and a huge YouTuber with over 250,000 fans on YouTube, subscribers. Without further ado, please let me welcome for the first time ever to the 21 Convention stage, John the Bulldog Sonmez.
All right, guys. How you guys doing today? All right, so I thought I would talk to you guys today about how to become a man. And this is kind of funny. This is one of the things on my YouTube channel I get the most shit for, is because one of my intros is, I teach you how to be a man. And people say, I don't need to learn how to be a man. I've got a penis, I'm a man. But it's not true. It's not true because you've probably heard a lot of other speakers here today, a lot of really good speakers, say something along the lines of that women are born and men are made. And it's very, very true. And I think it's something that, I'll talk about this a little bit, but actually I'll talk about it a little bit when we get to the point of why I put together this speech. But I think it's something that we all need to learn as men. And it's something that I didn't learn when I was growing up. So I'll give you a little bit of background, kind of introduction to who I am. My name's John Sonmez. As Anthony said, I'm the founder of Bulldog Mindset. And really the purpose of Bulldog Mindset is to get rid of the victim mindset, right? So many people today in the world, especially men, have the victim mindset. You already heard Steve talking about this, right? When he was talking about basically having your own center of origin, like your mental point of origin of being yourself and not complaining about women, not bitching about the problems in your life, right? And taking responsibility. That's the opposite of the victim mindset. So what I really try to do with Bulldog Mindset is to teach men, how to become men, but how to become high value men who take full responsibility in their life. So Bulldog Mindset is really based on Stoic philosophy as the mindset. And then I look at the areas of life that you need to learn how to master as a man, from fitness, getting in shape, becoming a strong man, as Elliot Hulse talks about a lot, from the financial aspect, right? Becoming your own man, a self-made man. In fact, one thing that's so important in the world today, if you've noticed, is that unless you have financial freedom as a man, you do not have freedom of speech anymore. You will be silenced, you'll be canceled. If you don't have, what some people call fuck you money, you can't say whatever you want. You'll get fired from your job, you'll be blackballed. So it's really important to develop that. And then finally, the dating relationship. As a man, you should be able to attract a woman. You should be able to talk to a woman. You should be able to cold approach a woman. You should have those basic skills. But so many men lack it today. So my story, my background, I went through quite a transformation. That's why I created Bulldog Mindset. That was really me in that picture there. And that's me as of recent. So what you see in the picture is a physical transformation. But what actually happened in reality was more of an inner transformation, because one thing I firmly believe is that your exterior is a manifestation of your inner. So who you are inside, it will show externally. And a lot of my transformation involved that. But, when I look at that old picture, I don't even recognize the person. I don't even know who that is, because it's completely a complete change. And this was before I learned what it was to be a man. I didn't know at this point. At this point, I would say in my life, I'm what I would call a full-grown boy, right? And I think that's what a lot of men go through, is that they don't ever make that transition, or they make that transition late. I didn't make that transition probably in my life until I was really probably about 33. So I went through a huge transformation in my life and ended up wanting to help other men to figure out the way. Some great people. I see Jack Donovan here, The Way of Men. Books like Way of Men, really guided me on that path. If you haven't read that book, by the way, highly recommend it. Let me see here. Okay, so I want to talk to you. I want to read something actually that I'd written when I was at another great thing that helped me on the journey to become a man at Elliot Hulse's grounding camp. Actually, Elliot Hulse was a big influence on me as well, who spoke here as well. But I wrote this when I was at his grounding camp because he asked the question, what does it mean to be a man today? And what I said was this. I said, what does it mean to be a man today? Being a man today is the same as it's always been. Men are made, not born. To be a man is to live with purpose. To be a man is to trust in your own judgment and experience over everything and everyone. It is to accept your full responsibility for your life and to choose to reject the victim mindset. To be a man is to feel deeply, but not allow those feelings to control your action. To be a man is to choose your own way. To be a man is to live by your own principles instead of those dictated to you. To be a man is to take risk, to have courage, to fight when necessary, make peace when possible. To be a man is to reject weakness, but embrace vulnerability. To be a man is to step up, lead, protect, to take action and make decisions. To be a man is to accept the consequences of your actions, good or bad. To be a man is to bring your gift to the world in love, even if the world rejects your gift, even if you are crucified for it. To be a man is to be respected among other men, to have status among your peers, among your tribe. A man is not swept away by emotion. A man has emotional mastery. He feels the emotion, but he does not let it get a hold of him. A man looks at disdain, at handouts and pity. A man only accepts what he has rightfully earned. To be a man is to never be finished. Never put the guard down, never drop the gloves, fighting the battle anew each day. Above all else, a man seeks freedom. A man makes freedom in his life by conquering himself and exercising his own will. So that's what it means. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And that's what it means to me to be a man. So the first thing about being a man is rejecting the victim mindset. We already talked a little bit about what the victim mindset is, but it's so prevalent today that I really want to emphasize this point, because many of us have the victim mindset and we don't even realize it, because we think that even if we are legitimate victims, that it's okay to wear a badge of victimhood. And we see this throughout society today. We see constantly the badge of victimhood being worn by people, them being uplifted for being victims, when, truly strong men, they don't want to be labeled as a victim, even if they're a victim. I'll give you a story that really presses this home point for me, or this point home for me. I remember watching in the news, maybe it was like a year and a half ago, I remember seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger at some event that he put together in South Africa. And I remember watching this clip of this guy. He just runs across the stage and he just drop kicks Arnold. I don't know if you guys see that? Remember that? Okay. So this happens, right? And Arnold's like what? He's like 70 something. I mean, he's still Arnold, but he's an old man at this point. Like he's getting pretty old. And I remember him taking the hit, and it was a big hit. Like he moved forward. He got drop kicked, right? And it hurt. It certainly hurt. And then I think it was the next day on the news, or maybe it was a tweet or something, or someone was interviewing Arnold. And he basically said, they asked him, they're like, oh, are you going to sue him? Are you going to press charges? What's going to happen? How did it feel to get kicked like that? Are you okay? Right? Is there any medical problems? And Arnold basically responds with, did someone kick me? I thought someone bumped into me. Right? Clearly he was in a lot of pain. They played the video back while he's saying this, and he's clearly moved like 2 feet, all right? Almost fallen over, right? That was a hard hit. But see, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a real man. He doesn't have the victim mindset. He doesn't, even with the legitimate claim to victimhood, he rejects it. You know, I remember growing up in school and getting beat up and not telling my dad, when my dad asked, what happened to you? I didn't say, oh, these kids picked on me. There were 3 of them and they took my lunch money and beat me up. I said, nothing happened to me. I'm fine. Because I don't want to be a victim, right? And, I'll tell you guys this, because so many people are seeking what I consider the worst human emotion you could ever give to a person, which is pity. I'd rather die than have you give me pity. Pity is the worst, and that is what victimhood is all about, is choosing to be a victim. And so, don't get me wrong, shit happens in life. We're not all dealt the same hand. Life is not fucking fair. Anyone who tells you that is full of shit. But here's the thing. It doesn't fucking matter because no one fucking cares. You're alone in this world. It's you. That's it. No one gives a fuck about your problems. No one cares whether or not someone was fair to you, whether or not the deck is stacked against you. And whining and bitching about it, it doesn't change anything. The only thing that changes something is taking action. So I could legitimize your victimhood. We could all, everyone in this room, everyone watching, has some legitimate claim to victimhood. Maybe you're bullied as a kid. I was bullied as a kid. Maybe whatever it was, you're genetically inferior in some way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got short genes or bald genes or whatever it is. You still have to deal with your life. And so the solution to the victim mindset is responsibility. It's taking full responsibility and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter what the fucking game is, I have to play it the best I can, right? And this is, again, one of the things I think a lot of the kind of red pill content, unfortunately, that is preached a lot is victim mindset. It's victimhood, right? I've talked about some of the MGTOW kind of things. And again, a lot of people say, oh, well, John, you hate MGTOWs. No, I don't. I love MGTOWs. By default, as a man, I'm MGTOW, okay? Because I've always been going my own. Every man should be going his own way, not someone else's way, right? Steve just talked about his whole talk. If you listen to Steve just talking before this, that's the entirety of his talk was go your own way. But he didn't say bitch and whine and complain about it and blame other people, right? He said take full responsibility. So that's the key, is you want to get rid of the victim mindset. You think about what you can do, what actions you can take, how you can improve things, and not the shit that you can't control. Again, a lot of this comes from Stoic philosophy, right? If you haven't read Stoic philosophy, I highly recommend reading Seneca's Letters to Lucilius. That's a great place to start. If you want a little bit of a softer introduction, read The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Really good as well. But the whole idea is that the shit that you can't change, don't worry about it. Focus on what you can change. In fact, I have a book up here by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. So I'll give you a quick synopsis of this book. How many of you have read Man's Search for Meaning? Okay. So Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. He wrote this book. He was sent to a Nazi concentration camp. He saw his family killed, his friends killed. He was subject to all kinds of horrible torture and abuse, sexual, physical, whatever they did, you know what I mean? And he wrote about all those things. And the whole point of this book that he wanted to make was that you're not a victim, because he didn't consider himself a victim. What he said in the book is he said that between when something happens to you and your reaction to it, there's a space. And in that space, you can interpret what it means. And that's so key, because that gives you power. Because here he was stripped naked in a concentration camp, no sovereignty over his life from external appearances. But he said, I did not give up sovereignty over my life because I get to decide what I think. I don't get to decide what the weather is or what people do to me, how girls react to me. I don't get to decide that. But I get to decide how I interpret it and the story that I form from that. So that's how I highly recommend you read the book, first of all, Man's Search for Meaning. But if anyone has a claim for victimhood, Viktor Frankl does. I mean, not too many people have gone through what he's gone through, yet he rejected victimhood. So whenever I hear someone bitching and whining and saying how they're a victim, I can't hear it anymore. I can't hear it. I don't have any empathy for it. Because if Viktor Frankl can go through the shit that he went through and not have the victim mindset, then there's no excuse. The next one is developing emotional mastery. This is another one that triggers a lot of guys when I talk about this. Because I think Jesse Lee Peterson was talking about this as well, is that about anger. Anger. So many people associate anger with a masculine thing, as a masculine emotion. I say anger is weakness always. Anger is feminine. Why? Because it's the expression of anger. When anger comes out, anger controls you. In fact, scientifically, anger short circuits the thinking part of your brain. It goes to the primitive, the lizard brain, and it makes you react before you can process the thoughts through your head. So when you lose your temper, have you noticed that you do stupid shit when you lose your temper? I mean, am I the only one? Okay. Why is that? It's because you're not in control anymore. And so if you want to be a man, if you want to be sovereign over your life, how can you lose control? I don't get in very many fights anymore, but I used to be a little bit rowdy and get into some fights. And I remember, I know how to size up a guy at the bar, okay? If there's a guy who wants to start some shit with me, and he's yelling, and he's screaming, he's dancing around, and he's like, really getting in my face, I'm not afraid of that guy. I'll knock that guy out. He's lost control. He's angry. But if some guy has some kind of beef with me, and he's calmly coming up to me, and he's like, hey, let's step outside. I'm like, hey, how about I buy you a beer? Because I know that guy is dangerous, right? We know it instinctually, right? That's the thing. That's what anger. So emotional mastery is so important as a man. We always talk about how women are emotional. It's not a bad thing, but it's a female thing. Now, I have a system for developing emotional mastery, okay? I want to talk about 3 stages here of emotional mastery. And by the way, in this talk, I'm going to try and give you sort of my whole philosophy in life condensed. So we'll see how much we get through it. But the first phase of emotional mastery is what I call wearing your heart on your sleeve, okay? How many of you can relate to wearing your heart on your sleeve? All right? It's emo. It's going around crying and saying, oh, gosh, nobody loves me. This girl, she rejected me. It's like, it's the size. Like, what's wrong with you, Johnny? Oh, nothing. Just, I don't know. Just, I like this girl and she doesn't like me. It's wearing your heart on your sleeve, okay? That's where we mostly start, okay? That's where nice guys are. Some of you are there right now. It's okay. I was there. When you're at that stage in emotional mastery, everything you feel, you express, okay? It's very weak. It's very feminine. It's childish, all right? That's how you get pity. People pity you. They don't want to be around you. You dump on them. You're emotionally draining to other people because you dump your baggage on them, okay? And what happens? How do you determine what you do in life? You're completely controlled by your emotions. You feel good, you do this thing. You feel bad, you do this thing. You're angry, you fly off the handle, you do this. Your actions are completely influenced by your emotion. That's the first level. Now, what happens to a lot of guys is after experiencing that for a long enough time, you figure out the solution, which is the second level of emotional mastery. I call it zombie mode. In fact, I guess I have slides for these. Okay, so that's your heart on your sleeve. Level 2 is emotional numbness, zombie mode. So you're like, hey, I got this shit figured out. All I have to do is numb myself to emotion, right? It's what most people think stoic is. That's not really what stoic is, but it's what most people think it is. But I developed a strategy in life. I remember going through the shit of I'm not going to wear my heart on my sleeve anymore. I'm invulnerable now. You can't hurt me, bitches. And that was my way of living, and it worked. I didn't feel any pain, and no one could hurt me. But you know what I had to get rid of in order to not feel any pain is I had to put on polarizing glasses. I had to see everything in black and white. I had to get rid of love as well. I couldn't feel pain, but I couldn't feel love. I really couldn't feel anything at all. I was cold, as they say. But you know what? It sucks kind of all the joy out of life. It's like looking through the world and seeing everything in monochrome instead of seeing it in color. Like, life is meant to be experienced, to feel things, okay? But when you're in this stage, you're at least better than the first, because guess what? You can be a man, you can be more like a man on the stage because you can act without emotion. You can let your analytical brain and your logic determine your actions, which is critical as a man. But it's where a lot of guys get stuck. How many of you feel like you're stuck at level 2? Like you figured this shit out, you're not a nice guy anymore, but you're stuck here. Okay. A lot of pickup artists, this is why pickup ends up being something ends up not being very good, because they get stuck here. Because they're like, oh, I fucked 50 girls. Okay, well, did you feel anything? No. I have to keep on. At some level, I'll feel something again, right? It doesn't matter. No matter how much your conquest is, no matter how much, if you are hiding from feeling, experiencing emotion, you're going to be stuck. So, level 3, this is David Goggins right there, but big fan. But it's called Feel the Pain and Keep on Walking. Okay? Now, at this level, what's happening is you're experiencing all the emotions there are. You're not afraid of pain anymore. You're not afraid of love anymore. But you have something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, which is called non-attachment. Okay? So you can fully experience emotions. You're open to it. But they don't control your actions like they did when you're wearing your heart on your sleeve. Okay? And what happens is now you're free. You know, I love what Steve was saying in the previous talk when he was talking about the guys that are telling you, don't be like a Don Juan, don't romance, and like just be this cold. See, if you're at the second level and you have emotional numbness, you have to be that cold guy. You can't actually experience anything. You have to be careful. Oh, I don't want to give her validation. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to, do anything for a girl. I don't want to buy her dinner. If you're at level 3, you're like, hey, I'm the man. I don't care. It does, like, I'm going to experience. And you know what? If you don't like me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I feel the pain, keep on walking. I'm experiencing life again. All right? Because now, I was at level 2 for a long time. It took me a long time to get to level 3 to be able to be to the point of being what I call being open, right? Because when we have emotions, and obviously men have emotions, right? I think a lot of people mistake that. They're like, when it's like women are emotional, no, women are expressing emotions that they have. See, being a man is about mastering the emotion. You feel it, but it doesn't influence your action. Not directly. And so we have, people who express their emotions, level 1. We have people who repress their emotions, level 2, not healthy. And then experiencing and letting go of emotions, that's level 3. And by the way, I forgot to mention in the intro, I'm training for a 100-mile race. David Goggins was a huge influence on me. I remember reading the book Living with a Seal while I was running like a 10-mile run. And after I heard all the shit that he did, I ran a full marathon the next day because I knew I could do it. And some of it is just understanding, like seeing someone do it. All right, so let's talk about non-attachment. So I think this is something really, really critical. I did a video maybe like a week or so ago that got some interesting responses. I called it, Why Alpha Males Should Fall in Love, right? And what I talked about in this was this idea of this level 3 of emotional mastery where you're experiencing things. You're experiencing the spectrum of life. Because you're not afraid to get hurt because you can let things go. See, the problem with being blue pill, it's not, there's like a surface level thing that most people identify. Okay, this is red pill and this is blue pill. Okay, this guy's a simp, right? And this guy's not. He's cold. But the problem is not behaviors and actions. Because guys are like, oh, well, should I just had a guy that had asked me, should I buy this girl a flower? Is it okay? Is it beta to pay for dinner? And my answer was, if you're asking me, then it is, because you should just do whatever the fuck you want. But the only way you can do whatever the fuck you want is if you have non-attachment, if you're not attached to the outcome, right? And you're able to let things go. So what does that mean? I was explaining to one of my coaching clients, I was like, it means that you could go out, and if you want to pick up a girl, it's fine. Okay, so you go out to a bar, you pick up a girl, and you fall madly in love with her for that evening. And you experience all there is to experience, but tomorrow, when she's gone, you're willing to let her go. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to do that or that you have to pick up girls at bars. It could be a long-term relationship that at any moment, you're willing to let it go. What it means is this, and this is how you get to understanding what non-attachment is. See, everything I have in life, it's not mine. It's all borrowed, including the atoms that make up my body. Someday, all of these atoms that I have are going to return from whence they came. They're not mine. I'm only using them for right now. The money I have, the muscles I have, the relationships I have, all of those things, just like everything in life, is temporary, and it's not yours. We suffer loss because we think shit is ours. When you let go and you realize that it's all just a gift, I always like to say, everything's gravy, you're not attached because it's just a bonus. It's a bonus. It's something that was given to you in your life in order for you to enjoy for a period of time. It doesn't matter if that time period is a single night or 10 years or 100 years, right? If you live that long, no, it doesn't matter because everything is temporary and everything will go away. And so the stronger that you hold on to things, the worse that you are. And I know for you guys that are suffering with the nice guy syndrome and have problems with women in relationships, and why do they abuse and treat you badly, it's because you're trying to hold on to them. Like this butterfly, you're crushing the butterfly. You have to let things go. You only have to, you have to let things be whatever they're going to be and to be okay with the outcome. Again, a lot of this is deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. It's called amor fati, the love of fate, right? Literally, I wake up in the morning and I think, whatever the fuck happens, I'm glad it happened that way. I've trained myself to do it because any other response to life is insane and ridiculous. Why? Because reality is what reality is. If you don't like reality, it doesn't change reality. It doesn't mean I don't have a motive in life and that I don't take action and I don't try and make my destiny what it is, but whatever actually happens, I say, that's the best fucking thing. I'm glad that fucking shit happened. And I mean it, because that's the only way it could have happened, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Doesn't mean I don't learn, doesn't mean I don't have ambition, but I accept it. And that's how you develop non-attachment. And once you have non-attachment, you're invulnerable because nothing can hurt you. Because literally, every single fucking thing that happens, it's awesome. It's great. It should have happened that way. You either win or you learn. Another step in becoming a man that I discovered is killing your father, metaphorically, okay? I know you guys. So what does this mean? It means this, okay? It means killing the idea of your father, right? So when we grow up, our fathers to us, they're the king. They're the tribal leader. We seek approval from our fathers. Rightfully so, we should, as we're young men, as we're boys, before we've gone through the initiation. And what has to happen at some point is we have to throw off that value system, right? We have our father's value system. We decide what is good and what is bad in relation to what does our father approve of. At some point, we have to become the father. We have to become the tribal leader. And so we have to metaphorically kill the value system of our father. We have to say, you know what? Dad, I love you, right? But I'm my own man now. And I have my own value system. And I don't need your approval. I still love you. But my value system, what I think is right, my judgment, rules my life. I am the king. And so many guys that I work with, so many guys that I coach, this is the final, they can't do it. They can't bring themselves to metaphorically kill their father. I had to have this conversation with my own father. We had a falling out for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. You know, he's going to watch this video because he watches all my videos. We're the best of buds now because he's an awesome guy. But he very much was very controlling. He would use guilt on me. He'd be like, oh, you know, why aren't you coming visit? Blood is thicker than water. You know, he would use all these guilt tactics. And at one point I had a conversation with him on the phone and I was like, hey, look, Dad, I said, I love you, man, but I don't allow anyone who treats me the way that you treat me to be in my life. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't accept. These are my boundaries. This is who I am as a man. And he didn't give a shit. He ran right over that. He was like, who the fuck do you think you are? I raised you. You own your... I said, I didn't get into it. I said, you know what? Totally respect your position. I said, I would probably feel the same way if I were you. Regardless, what I said stands. And he said, well, I'm not fucking talking to you, you fucking ungrateful son of a bitch. And I said, love you, Dad. Totally understand. All right. We didn't talk for about 1.5 years. You know, eventually he came around and understood, hey, I want to have a relationship with my son who's now a man. And now we have a great relationship. But I had to do it. It wasn't, believe me, it wasn't easy to be on the other end of that phone. For one, it wasn't easy to say what I had to say. But for a second, it wasn't easy to not get sucked in to the argument. Because I wanted to give him all kinds of reasons why I was doing what I do. But as a man, one of the things I talk about is you don't complain, explain, or apologize. Your word is your word. What you said, it doesn't need to be explained to someone. You don't need to justify your actions. You take the action and you accept the consequences of that action. But you don't have to have everyone have buy-in. You don't have to have them understand why you did what you did. A lot of you that are stuck in the nice guy area, it's because of this. It's because it's like, oh, well, if they could just understand. No apologizing. One good exercise for you guys that are stuck with this is, I sometimes get to my email, and someone will email me, it's like 3 days later, and maybe you've done this, like you start the email, and the very first thing you type is, sorry, and then you gotta delete that. No, you can't start with sorry. And then you say, I was at this conference for oh, now you're trying to explain. Nope, delete that. Just fucking type. You don't owe an explanation, you don't owe an apology, you are who you are. So, getting back to killing your father, what this means is developing your own value system in life. And so many guys, so many young guys I talk to, one of the biggest problems that they have is that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your father, because some of you didn't grow up with a father, you didn't have a father figure, but society, the world has become your father, your surrogate father. And the problem is that your value system is whatever the world tells you or someone else does. I had a video up on my YouTube channel, and it got like 13,000 downvotes and 1,000 upvotes. And the most common comment on that YouTube video was, see, you're wrong. I can't believe you still have this video up. I can't believe you haven't taken it down by now. And I thought, holy shit. You guys think that I should take a fucking video down because other people don't like it. I didn't make the fucking video for other people. I made it because I believe it. If I believe something and 13,000 fucking people tell me I'm wrong, that doesn't fucking change it for me. I still believe it. Because guess who's the most important fucking person in my life? It's me. My value system is the most important. I judge things by what I think if they're good or bad. And so many of us have gotten away from that, and we judge things by whether other people think they're good or bad. You can't be a man unless you have your own value system. That's why you have to metaphorically kill your father, because your father, in this case, represents the value system that you're adopting. Getting approval, seeking approval from the father, from other people, from society. Seeking validation. You have to kill that. The next one here is one also I struggled with, which is conquering fear. I had a good period of time where I was afraid to fly in airplanes. I was afraid to go on roller coasters. As a kid, I slept with the lights on some nights. I had this one moment in my life, though, that changed everything. There were two moments. So one thing was I started to get these panic attacks. I remember going into work one day, felt like I was not getting a deep enough breath. Then I started to think about that, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for 2 fucking weeks. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to die. And that was the point in my life where I was like, I could lose everything. I could lose everything because of fear. Because what I always thought, like the reason why I allowed myself to have this fear of airplanes and the fears that I had was because I thought, okay, well, eventually the fear will go away. But that's not how fear works. What fear does is once fear has a foothold, it takes more and more and more of your life. And I found that I was being afraid of more and more things. And so one thing that really changed things around for me, I was at a Tony Robbins seminar at Date with Destiny, and Tony was on the stage and he said something that just struck me, that impacted, completely changed the course of my life. There's not very many things I could say that people have said that have completely changed the course of my life. But he said now I forget it. Let me see. He said, oh, okay, all right. The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. I'll say it again. The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty that you can comfortably live with. And so, I don't know if you guys have seen Final Destination. I think it's 2. It doesn't really matter. There's a scene in Final Destination and whatever it is where the main character, you know, he's avoiding death because death is coming for him next, if you're familiar with the theme of the movies, all right? And he figures out, okay, well, fuck, it's coming for me, so I'm gonna go to this cabin in the woods, and I'm gonna get rid of all the sharp objects, I'm gonna tape everything to the walls. There's a scene where he's sitting there with some fucking oven mitts on his hands, and he's trying to eat some food out of a can. And he's all alone in this cabin in the middle of nowhere with oven mitts on his hands, and he realizes that he's not living his life. That he might as well, he's already fucking dead. He killed himself. He might as well be dead rather than sit in a cabin waiting it out to make sure that he doesn't die for the next 30 or 40 years, right? And I was like, shit, that's me. That was me. That's what fear was doing in my life, because I realized I was trying to build this fortress around myself, okay? Financially, I made a lot of money, had a lot of real estate investments, tried to make it like so nothing can fucking hurt me financially. Didn't take any more risks anymore. I was like, I got to pay off all the properties, have my money coming in, and I did that, all right? So I had my financial fortress. I had a physical fortress. That was, I'm not going to do anything risky. Fuck that. I'm not flying on airplanes. I'm doing roller coasters. None of this stuff. Forget combat, any of this stuff, right? Emotionally, no one's going to hurt me. Not going to let anyone in. Right? That was when I was at level 2 zombie mode of emotional mastery. And, you know, finally, when that happened, I remember leaving that conference and I changed my entire life around. I got on a plane. I got on a roller coaster. I went and found the most ridiculous roller coasters that I could ever find and started riding those. I started taking down my walls. I started allowing myself to be open and to not care what other people think, to not concern myself with all those things. I conquered that fear, because here's what I learned about fear, is because I remember sitting on an airplane, trying to put my headphones on, trying to play a Nintendo DS, and trying to block out the turbulence and trying to suppress the fear, trying to say, oh, I'm not afraid, I don't feel the fear. See, fear, just like all emotions, you can't control. It's instinctual. You can't control fear. No matter how much you try and control it and try to block it out and say, I'm not going to be afraid, I'm not afraid, you can't control fear. It's not your fault. But what I learned, and I wish I would have learned it sooner, is that you can always choose to have courage. Fear is uncontrollable, but courage is a choice. Not only is it a choice, but it's like a muscle. The more that you exercise courage, the stronger it becomes, and it nullifies fear. You don't have to get rid of the fear when you have courage. And at any moment, you can just make the choice to have courage. You cannot make the choice to make fear go away, but you can always make the choice to have courage. And once I learned that little trick, then I started reinterpreting things. Like I was talking about Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, about being able to have a space between what happens to you and your reaction, and you get to interpret that. So I started reinterpreting fear as excitement, right? I remember back in the day when I was completely afraid to talk to women, I'd be terrified. What will happen? I changed that into excitement, because I'll tell you what, the highest high that you'll ever have in your life is that moment right after you conquer fear. It's that if you've ever ridden a roller coaster, it's that after you come all the way up and then that drop when you first go over, that's the highest high that you'll ever have in life, is when you conquer fear. And you get addicted to that shit. But that requires to have courage. So every time that I get into a fearful situation now, right? So maybe I was a little bit, I've spoken on stages a lot in the last few years, but I was a little bit afraid to get on the stage today. But then I thought, yeah, this is good. This is exciting. Maybe I should just throw away the slides and just like make it even more terrifying, right? Because I know the exhilarating fucking feeling of forcing myself to grow that courage a little bit more. And I'll give you one quick tip here, since we have enough time, on conquering fear, okay? How many of you have ever struggled with fear? All right, I'll tell you how I got over flying on airplanes. So I don't remember the source, although I'd cite it, but when I was doing the panic attacks and stuff, I had this, I tried everything, okay? Tried blocking it out, I got medication which I didn't take, I went and checked my lungs, all kinds of stuff, right? But I found this one, it wasn't even a YouTube video, it was some web page, there was an audio, and the guy was like, hey, when you're having a panic attack, this is what you do. He said, stop trying to block it out. He said, turn it up from a 7 to an 11. He's like, try to feel as much fear as you can. Just feel all that shit. Just like, be like, give me your fucking worst, right? And so, because the default when we feel fear is to hide away from it, to try and block it out, to try and ignore it, right? I don't want to see the fucking lion over there. No, I'm not looking at you, right? Animals do this. You see, when a dog's afraid, what does a dog do? If you have a dog and you yell at a dog, what does it do? It's like, I can't see you, right? That's what we do. So here's what you do. He said, turn it up. Try to feel the fear as much as possible. So I said, okay, I've tried everything else. I might as well try this. So I had the panic attack, and I just said, take me. Like, fucking kill me. I don't give a fuck. Like, just give it to me. Let me feel as much fear. Bring it on. Bring it on. This is all you got. Bring it on. Because you know what it turns out to be is that the thing that we actually fear is fear itself. You've heard this, but it's true. I was instantly cured. Instantly cured. Instantly I went back to work. No more panic attacks. I did the same thing with the airplane. I was like, well, shit, I've got the solution now. So I booked a plane ticket, booked a window seat, opened up the shades, said, you're gonna look out the fucking window the whole fucking time. On takeoff, I'm looking out the window, no headphones, nothing. And then I'm like, all right, when turbulence comes, it's bouncy time. Let's jump in the seat. Let's scare all the other passengers, right? And that's what I did. I'm like, turbulence is coming. I'm like, woo! Yeah! Right? People are looking at me. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And there was some bad turbulence. I mean, I was scaring people. Now they're scared. Now they got phobias to fly on the airplane, but I was having a good all time. Because I just let myself feel, I was afraid when I was going, woo! But I was letting myself feel the fear. And once you realize that that's as bad as it gets, fuck, you've already experienced as bad as it gets, right? It's like when you have a really bad headache and you're like, well, this headache is a 10 out of 10. Can't get any worse. So then you just accept it. And then the fear disappears. And so that's my little tip If you're struggling with any kind of fear, I did this for roller coasters. If you're struggling with approach anxiety, same fucking thing. Just like, this is really fucking scary. Go up to the girl and be like, this is really fucking scary. What do you think? And you're probably not gonna have success, but you'll feel fucking good about it. You'll be like, yeah, shit, I just talked to this fucking intimidating girl. Good job, right? You'll go home and you'll be happy. So next one, become physically strong. This picture here is from Elliot Hulse's grounding camp event, lifting a stone there. This is something that I think all men need to do. And it's not just because be a big, strong man. There is some element to it for sure, right? But it's because what physical discipline does to mentally. See, guys ask me all the time, how can I develop mental toughness? How can I be like you? How can I run? If you guys don't know, I'm training right now for a 100-mile race. I'm about 230 pounds, so running an ultra marathon is definitely a little bit tougher for me. But I've run 6 marathons, and I ran a 50-mile race earlier this year. And it was something I thought was completely impossible. And people are asking me, why would you run a fucking 100 miles? First of all, you're not built for it. You're not going to win it. I know all that. But it's because of who I'm going to become in the process. And I want to go through all that pain because I know that will make me stronger. See, the process of becoming physically strong, disciplined, it develops mental toughness better than anything else. There's no other formula that will develop mental toughness guaranteed. I guarantee you, if you start training for a fucking marathon, you will become mentally tough. Physical discipline develops mental toughness. And so, as a man, you need to have mental toughness. Because how are you going to have emotional mastery if you don't have mental toughness? Right? You have to be able to, it takes a lot to feel the pain and keep on walking. That's not easy. So, really important as a man to become physically strong. Start lifting weights, start going to the gym, start pushing yourself to the physical limits. Also, if you've never pushed yourself to the absolute physical limit, you don't know what it is to live. Because at the very greatest pain that is self-inflicted upon yourself through physical exertion comes the greatest euphoria. That's when you really know when you're alive. When you can't breathe and you're huffing and you feel like you can't get enough air in your lungs and they're on fire and your legs are burning, that's when you know you're really alive. This one also important, developing competency, right? As men, we have to have some kind of skill, some kind of value, some kind of worth. I thought about doing a talk about being a top 5% man. But what I mean by competency here is the idea of being able to be a self-made man, of being able to procure for yourself, right? I have a video on my channel about guys 18, or I'm 30 and living from home, and I rip into the guy. I'm like, hey, you're not a man if you're living from home. And a lot of people don't like that video. They're like, oh, no, you don't know, you don't understand, you don't. And my whole point of this is that, as a man, we hear the protector and provider, you need to be able to provide for yourself 100%, but then have some left over to provide for other people. And if you think back in time, it makes fucking sense. Because if you're part of a tribe and you can't even take care of your own needs, what value you are to the tribe as a man? You're not any value. You should be surplus. You should be able to take care of everything for you and then some for the others. Because not everyone in the tribe can hunt. Some people have to cook. The women have to, you have to be able to provide for the women and the children. You have to provide for some of the men that are weaker or elder or not able to. So to be a man, to not have competency, to not be able to at least take care of yourself, and be self-sufficient, is to not be a man at all. Oops. All right, so I'll just give you a couple of ending thoughts here, just a few points, since I didn't have time to expand on every single possible thing. The first one I just want to say here, and it's been talked about a little bit, is don't be jaded. There's a lot of content out here in the manosphere today red pill content, MGTOW content, I don't care. I don't have people that I hate, all right? I love all you guys, all right? And I hope you've seen it today, guys like Coach Greg here, awesome brother, Elliot, Jack, who I'd mentioned, Steve, who's here. We have different viewpoints. Okay? But I think what you'll find amongst all of us here, which I really appreciate about this convention, thank you, Anthony, again, for inviting me and putting this on, is that we all reject the victim mindset. We might think different things about cold approach or choosing singles or what. That's fine. We can debate all those things. But as men, we come together and we're not jaded. We don't see things from a jaded viewpoint. We see things as reality. I want to know what reality is clearly, and I want to thrive in that reality. I need to know the rules of the game so I can play it correctly, but I'm not going to complain about the rules of the game. One thing I'll say again here is, besides learning to be a man, learn to be a man in a relationship. Really important. A really good book I like is called The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. A lot of guys learn how to pick up girls, but they don't learn how to deal with the emotional storm that women. See, women are looking for a man to be a rock. And the more feminine of a woman that you get, the more she's going to be emotional, the more she's going to blow over you like a fucking hurricane, and you have to be able to stand there. That's where that emotional mastery comes in, and be like, and take her craziest bitchiness. The greatest fear of every woman is that some guy will discover how much of a crazy bitch she is and not accept her. If you want to be successful in a relationship as a man, you have to learn how to do that. Learn the cold approach. I think it's a useful skill for you guys to overcome fear. A lot of personal development came from that. I'd recommend no long-term relationships until you're at least 30 to 35. Let me tell you, by that time you got all your shit together. You know who you are, you're grounded as a man, you got your physique, you got your money, right? Again, you don't have to follow this, but I'm just saying from my experience, this is what I'd recommend. I already talked about this one. Don't complain, explain, or apologize. Bring pain upon yourself. See, the pain that's thrust upon you does not produce growth, but the pain that you bring upon yourself willingly, that produces growth. Pain is coming for you. It can either drag you out from underneath the bed, kicking and screaming, or you can go and fucking face it. So you might as well fucking face it. And then one thing here about goals, I could give you a whole talk on this, but believe me, I achieved most of the goals I had in life. I retired at 33, and it was the most depressing period of my life, because that was my goal for my whole life, was to retire young. But what I'll say about this is that what I learned from that experience was that don't make goals about what you get. Make goals about who you become. Again, I talked about running a 100-mile race this year. The only reason why I'm doing it is because I want to become the man that ran 100 miles. There's no other goal. I don't care about a fucking medal. I don't care about an accolade. I care about becoming that person. All my goals in life now are, I choose goals based on who do I want to become. And then, I've said this, but I'm just going to bash it in your head. Read Stoic philosophy. To me, there's no better guide for a rational approach to life. So that's what I got here. We'll have some open for some questions in a second here. But yeah, thank you guys. All right, who's got some questions? All right.
Thanks for the talk. That was really informative, really great. Been watching it for a while, and I like what you do. I just wanted to ask, so you described being retired and then kind of having some emptiness around that, and then kind of making your own path. And not being retired, I'm kind of searching for that goal, and I'm just wondering, am I going in the wrong direction, or was part of the path that you kind of went through first achieving that and realizing it wasn't what you needed? Do you think that was necessary for your journey, or could it be better achieved just by going straight to, the end goal of becoming what you want to be?
Good question. So it was necessary for my journey. Probably it's not necessary for yours. Like a lot of the shit that I did was necessary for my journey so that I could come here and be an example of what not to do. So I could teach, so I could empathize, right? But here's the thing, is like if you can learn the shortcut, it's better, right? And the shortcut is this, is that if you think that something is going to make you happy, you're wrong. If you think, when I was a dork, I thought, oh, if I got the hot girl, then just the one hot girl. And then it was, oh, if I get 10 of them. And then it was like, well, if my notch count is, no, never, it didn't matter. It's called a hedonistic treadmill, it doesn't matter. When I get this much money, when I retire, right? All of those things, I went through every single one of them. I said, well, when I have six-pack abs, oh, but then it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All of those things, you'll never be happy. You should be chasing fulfillment. Fulfillment is real simple. It just comes from putting in the work. It's the one thing we're trying to avoid is work, but it's the most fulfilling thing. The time you're most fulfilled in life is when after a day of really hard work where you put in the fucking effort, where you accomplish something, where you made some personal growth. Personal growth is the key. That's what you should be after. So now part of that process can involve making money, retiring. That's great. But you can't make that the end goal, right? Because there's nothing, no matter what it was. At one point I was sitting in a cubicle and I dreamed, I said, if I could blog for a living, then I could just sit in my underwear and I could just type some shit and I can make money and it'd be so great. And I wake up in the morning and be like, fuck this shit, I don't want to write anything. Even today, right? Like most of my life today is like I make YouTube videos, I get to talk to people, I get to coach people for a lot of money, and I wake up, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like fucking recording a YouTube video. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like none of those things, it doesn't matter what you attain, you'll never be happy. There'll never be enough. But instead, if you recognize like what makes you fulfilled, which is important, being happy doesn't fucking matter. Being fulfilled is what matters. I'm fulfilled. I could die tomorrow and I'm all right. I mean, I got shit I want to do, but if I die tomorrow, it's fine. I lived a full fucking life because it's not what I did, it's how I did it. And I live my life now based on the idea that I have to put in the work, that the work itself is enough. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's said that, you know, he says, or the Bhagavad Gita says that you're entitled to your labor, but not the fruits of your labor. Right? It's a really interesting concept. It's like, that's the thing. That's actually the thing. The fruits of the labor is what we think is the thing. It's kind of like dopamine, right? Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that makes you have motivation. It's not, people think that's like when you get something, you get pleasure and you get dopamine. No. It's the pursuit of it. It's the same thing. You're entitled to your labor, but not the fruits of your labor. It means that the thing is the labor. That's the thing you have to be. Think about putting in the work, not about what you get. And you'll get the stuff. It'll come if you put in the work. But think about putting in the work and let that be the reward enough.
It's really, really meaningful. If I could just follow up real quick. So chasing fulfillment and kind of focusing on that makes perfect sense. The fear and the sticking point for me is, you know, I could go after what I really care about and not make a living and kind of struggle that way. And so it's more along the lines of like, I can do what makes money and what I don't like, right? The corporate cubicle life, or I could go after something that there's a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. Maybe I can't make ends meet that way. And so how do you get past that?
Don't shut off your logical brain. Make a plan. I mean, it's still fine to make a plan to do something that makes financial sense, right? Because again, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. Because shit's gonna suck. Work sucks. The best job, I had a porn star a male porn star on my YouTube channel. I interviewed him. I was like, I've been wanting to ask a male porn star this question for a long time. And I was like, hey, so do you ever wake up in the morning and you don't feel like going into work? You're like, fuck, I don't feel like it today? He's like, yeah, it happens a lot. I'm like, all right, there you go, guys. I don't know what kind of fucking job you think you're gonna get where you're gonna be happy all the time, you're gonna love it. Because if this guy doesn't want to go into work someday, you're all fucked, right? So it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You could have the shit, I I could be happy shoveling shit all day, because if my mindset is such that I'm focused, I'm present, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the Lord's work, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, because it's how I do it, it's not what I do. So it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. It only matters what you bring to it, right? Passion is something that you bring. It's not something you find. You create passion. In fact, I talk to a lot of black pill guys, and I agree with them. Life is meaningless. I can have a completely nihilistic viewpoint in life. I 100% agree. But guess what? We bring meaning to life. We create meaning. And so all the shit that we do, carrying a suitcase, going to work, trading paper around and all this shit, mostly it's fucking meaningless. We just created this whole illusion of meaning behind this thing. But in our own lives, we create them. We do the things that are meaningful, and we make it have meaning. The universe doesn't have to. Maybe there is some order or some purpose to the universe. I think there is. But what my point is that it doesn't matter. Is that we create the meaning, and that's how we live our lives.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
John, hello. Thanks for the talk. You showed a before and after picture of the body transformation. How long did it take you to get from one to the other?
So, I mean, to go from the first to like looking pretty good, like not at that level, was probably about 2 years. But I mean, those photos are more than 10 years apart, right? I didn't really dial it in till the end. So
when you are at your peak in terms of physical fitness, and you're putting in a lot of time to build your body and your life, your mind, your soul, and everything, obviously that's sometimes, it leaves you with less time for a relationship and committing to someone and spending time to kind of develop that relationship. How do you handle that commitment without making the other person feel that you're not giving them what they want enough that they feel safe and secure to be with you?
that's not your responsibility. So, and I think this is really important. I should actually put this on one of the points on the slide, is that one of the things about being a man that's really important is that the mission is first, always. And women want a man who does not put them first. Women always want a man who puts the mission, the purpose first. Your purpose in your life has to be number one, and everything else has to come secondary to that. And it's not your responsibility for people's feelings, how they feel about that. You have to do your mission as a man. And it may mean that you're going to lose relationships. It means that you're going to lose some people in your life. Some people aren't going to like you. Believe me, the courses I've taken in life have ended many relationships with many people for various reasons. But my mission is always going to come first. My purpose in life. I cannot be me unless I'm making my purpose and my mission in life come first. And it requires sacrifices, but that's what it is to be a man, in my opinion. So.
Thanks.
All right. What? All right. Last question.
Yeah, no problem. That was actually a really good speech. I appreciate everything that was said. So when you talk about being stoic in the sense that, hey, like you have to perceive this reality in one way, I know when people have this predetermined seed of knowledge that they're embedded, like as far as like as they were raised, like rearing from either mom or dad or both. What if like the perceived reality that you want to go and see, like as far as like, you know, being a man, what if that conflicts with like someone that like kind of who you are? Like, I don't know if you have any like, I guess, tips on how to like overcome certain biases that help you become, you know, the person that you want to be just because of like knowledge that's conflicting or like what you're presented, if you know what I'm saying.
So you're saying that, what if like the values I've presented here conflict with who you actually are?
Or like things that like they open your eye up, but like you like, it's kind of like you're just taking a minute to like sort of digest, I guess, if that makes sense. Like what would you recommend? Like how would you take it?
Give me like a real, like, this is the question.
Yeah, sorry. So like you're pretty much like given a certain set of like information or a certain aspect, but you want, like, you yourself want to go and like look at it that way, but it's kind of hard to. Like, have you ever had that transition to like a realization, oh, like this is how it's supposed to be? Like, are there any tips that you can like give me, I guess, to like how to accept that?
How to accept that this is how it's supposed to be, but it's not
like
what
sort
you
of
want
like, you know, like talking about being stoic and like how things are in reality, perceived to how you think things are. I don't know if you can give like an example on that by any chance.
Yeah, I think I get where you're saying is the biggest thing I would say about this is that you have to really look at life from the perspective of, I just want to know what is reality, not judging it, right? One of the exercises I do for a lot of my coaching clients is I call it the look in the mirror exercise. I'm like, okay, strip down naked, look in the fucking mirror. I want you to just objectively look at yourself, not judging. I want you to see, are you fat? Is your nose too big, right? Is one eye bigger than the other? Are you, whatever it is. So like just all of that. And then I want you to do the same inventory for your characteristics. And I want you to just accept all of those things, wanting to know honestly what reality is without judgment. And if you look at life that way, then there's some unpleasant truths in life, right? The red pill itself is an unpleasant truth. It's supposed to be. It's not unpleasant to me because I don't care, because I only care about knowing what it is, right? It's like you can be upset and argue about the rules to the game, or you can say, well, I just want to understand them so I can play the game as best as possible. It's a non-emotional decision.
Right.
Like the reason what trips us up is emotion, is expectation, right? If you want to live a life where you're able to accept what has happened, get rid of all expectations. Every negative emotion that you ever experience in life comes from an unmet expectation. Get rid of expectation, you get rid of negative emotion, and then you can accept things. But you can't accept things when you have expectations on things.
All right, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all the time we have. Give it up. John Summers.